Here's your heads up to this longer podcast. It's all about biases and we get very technical just for a few seconds. But then, the deeper we've dived, there's so much more to biases and how it affects everything that we do. Not just what people are giving us, trying to show us, but our goals, our personal development, things at work. And I go through all of that and give you ways to help you, I guess. I hope I do. My intention is to give you ways to neutralize your bias so you can get the best results and become the best you could ever be. Have a listen.
Warning.
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 Warning. You are entering into the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. Too late. Personal Development Unplugged.
Hello, my friend. Back again to the Personal Development Unplugged podcast. And this is all about biases. Biases. Let's think. If you could manage your own personal bias to ensure you get the best results, you would, wouldn't you? Let me repeat that. If you could manage your own personal bias to ensure you get the best results, you would, wouldn't you? Would you? You would. Wouldn't you not? Well, I think you would. You know, we hear so much about cognitive bias. And I hear it quite a few times on a lot of the personal development podcasts and things like that about, you have this bias here and bias there. And so I looked it up because I wanted to know exactly what a cognitive bias is. And here's the definitions I found. Cognitive bias is a systematic error in thinking that affects the decisions people make. This affects an individual's construction of reality. Woo! That makes it a bit more serious, doesn't it? If we've got this bias, this cognitive bias, this way of thinking, because basically what it means is, I guess, that we tend to listen more to the things that we agree with. That's our bias, our leaning towards. We tend to watch more. We tend to read more. We tend to look for the information that matches our bias. So if we believe this, then we look for the information that supports this. And when we see it not in that bias to what we believe in, we tend to just shrug it off. We don't go and look for it. And if we've got that, and if this definition is correct, an error in thinking that affects the decisions people make, affecting an individual's construction of reality. That's really heavy stuff, I guess. But we have it anyway. You see, here's an example for you. We've all heard about the Facebook fiasco of all the personal stuff. But they have filtering systems. You think you're just, isn't it strange that you could do this and you click on that link and all of a sudden, next time you look, there's something else in that vein. Sometimes it works really good. I like using it when I'm watching YouTube because it gives me the things I tend to like. But I also know that I miss a huge amount of other stuff that would help me make a more conscious decision about stuff. But, I'm looking at humor and things like that, so I'm not too bad. Not too bad about that at all. But the thing is, when you get people like Facebook who are boosting information your way to back up, support your own personal bias, they're actually boosting your systematic error in thinking that's affecting your decisions. They are systematically getting you to affect your way of construction reality. Because when we go all the way to our leaning, our bias, and that's all we're looking for, that's all we're listening to, that's all we're reading, we are becoming, so out of balance, as it were. And to me, that's really bloody scary. I mean, when I was thinking about this, I thought about the communication model in NLP. Basically, you've got something that happens outside, and you take it in through your 5 senses. So you got your visual, your auditory, your kinesthetic, that's the feelings, your olfactory, which is smell, and gustatory, which is taste. They're your basic senses. You may have plenty more, but let's take visual, auditory, kinesthetic, smell and taste. And you take it through. And what we do is we filter it ourselves. And this is where our biases come in, because we have things like our experiences, our past experiences, our values, our beliefs, our attitudes, our own personal profile, as it were, our extrovert, introvert, big picture, small picture, detail, those type of things, where we have our own personal leanings, our own bias. And then what we do is we filter it again in each of those type of sections by deleting, distorting, and generalizing to make sense of the world, but to make sense in accordance with our own personal bias. And that's how we get what we perceive, we project. And that's when it got me when we go, this affects individuals' construction of reality. That is perception and projection, isn't it? And that's when, I guess, if you learn NLP and hypnosis and things like that, what we try to do is always look to clean ourselves of the negatives, the negative beliefs, the limiting beliefs, the negative emotions and behaviors. Because when we do that, we can let a more balanced view come in, and then when it comes through those filters, and we create that little picture in our mind, which creates the feelings and the states and ultimately our behavior, we've got hopefully a more balanced view. So this is quite worrying. I started to notice other people when they go, oh, did you see this? Did you see? And I noticed all they're talking about is that had one leaning, as it were, towards one particular view. And sometimes, with this thing about fake news, crikey, that's really ramping up the odds, to really confirm, well, this is what I think because I saw this, and it's actually fake. Jeez. But then I thought, well, come on, this is scary, but it's a natural thing to do. We have our natural biases. We just don't need to have them fed by other people, other things, what people write, show, and things like that. So what I thought was, we need to be able to decide, to choose. Because at the moment, we have this false idea that we're choosing what we watch, what we read. But there's so many things going on in this world. People trying to influence, I guess. So if we can really just accept that we have the ability to choose and decide, to open up our awareness of other points of view, then I think we can counteract this, because then we can have a process, if need be, to look for the other side. Because that's what great debaters do. If you listen to some of the great debaters, they listen to the other side first, to notice whether there is any truth in that other view. And when they do that, they get to understand whether their point of view is still, in their mind, correct and even stronger, or maybe they have to temper it down because there are things that they hadn't considered before. And when they consider them, it changes what they believe. But they're doing that with an open mind because they've decided to choose to open up their awareness to other points of view. And I think that's awesome. And I think that's something we should all strive to do because, when you think about it, it's probably not going to get any better. The way the internet is going and all this fake news and everything like that, and what people are trying to do with their own agendas, I think we need to just step back and say, wait, before we do this, before I buy into this, I'm just going to choose to stop, to think. And I think that's what we can do. We can, one of the things we can do in this particular thing is to just ask, I know what you're saying, but where's the data? Where is the data that supports this? Because there's so many things being said in generalities that misses out supporting evidence. And when you look for that supporting evidence and it's not there, then you can start to say, well, maybe what I'm believing is not quite right. Or maybe that I am more right. I feel more comfortable in right. So I've listened to the evidence, I've looked at the data, and there's not that much. But if there is, then you might get a more balanced view. Then you can make a better decision in the world. And if you look for both sides, you might cock up those people who are trying to force the information that you get through your phones and the internet and everything like that. But then I thought, and this is not totally about that, but I want you just to be aware of, I'm sure you are aware, but maybe it's just something to remember, because I was aware of this, but I never really thought get the words out, Paul, please. Come on, Cluffy. I never thought deeply about it. I just take it on face value when people talked about cognitive bias. Oh, yeah. It just seems to make sense. But I never looked that little deeper below the surface to find out the effects of having a bias, which is natural, but more importantly, the effects of other people feeding it for their own ends. And I don't like that. So I also thought, though, okay, that's the way of the world at the moment. That's something that we ought to be aware of. So we check for data. We decide before we decide. That's the best thing. We choose to decide what we want to believe in, because we want to look at the data, look at the evidence, and make a proper decision. But sometimes we have to think, I guess, this is my further thoughts on this. Maybe just before you look at that data, the evidence, and this can be for all things, just in discussions with colleagues and things like that, when you're just talking about things in the world, just any type of topic, you might want to just pause for a second and notice what emotional bias you have. Because you could be triggering maybe doubt, anger, disbelief, fear. And if you start with that as one of your filters, or one of those emotions, then that's going to affect the way you filter in that information and how that information comes to you. So, we need to say, well, what might be a more appropriate baseline, a more appropriate emotion to have? Because I think it's really interesting. You might not be able to do this in the first conversation and things like that. But if you could rewind it when you go back and go, well, what emotion did it trigger off in me? I was totally fearful of it. I was scared what that person was saying. That's when you can actually say, well, I wonder what might have been a more appropriate emotion to have that would enable me to just be able to cope and listen and choose and decide. And I thought, I wonder what type of emotions and things that we could do. And the first one came to mind, and it's maybe slightly more difficult to do, but become dissociated. Just become dissociated, as if you were going to that third position. The one that we float, the meta position, where we float up above and looking down at a conversation and things. So in your mind, just take yourself a little bit away, and so you can hear it from a dissociated position or point of view. Because when you are totally dissociated, emotions disappear. And that's what a lot of people have done when they've had trauma. And in the middle of that trauma, they dissociate anyway. It's their unconscious mind's way of relieving that person from that negative emotion that they're feeling right then. So this is a natural skill that you have. And I'm not saying these conversations are traumas, but we can use the skill to just dissociate and then listen to what people are saying or what you're reading in this wonderful detached way. And when you do that, you can begin to see maybe other people's emotional bias. Maybe you can see and hear and get a feel for their cognitive bias. Maybe how they're constructing their reality because of the information they're accepting. That would be interesting to do, I think. Just replay conversations in your mind. Maybe. Maybe you don't think so. Do you think so? I think you think so. Even if you didn't go that far. I think that's really like the ultimate way of, it's the ultimate way of getting rid of emotions. But maybe you might think of a different way. What may be a different emotion to have that would allow you to see the world or see that information, see that discussion in a more balanced, open way? Can you think of one? Here's what I came up with. Maybe curiosity. Because when you're curious, you might look with a more inquiring eye, listen with a more inquiring ear, feel with more inquiring feelings. And when you do that, you begin to notice or maybe ask yourself questions as you're looking or you're taking in that information. Because when you do that, you go, that's interesting. I wonder how they got to that. Is that true? I wonder how that would affect me. Is that what I believe? Where did my belief come from? That's their belief. And you've got this curiosity of just asking questions. Because when you're asking questions, you're not really taking any assumptions in. You're, in effect, looking for more data, looking for more backup. And again, another one I thought of was just having a neutral openness, which is like I guess, in some ways, in between dissociation and curiosity. But trying to just say, well, okay, I'm just going to listen. I'm just going to listen, and I'll make my mental notes. And I'll just, before I instantly reply, I'll maybe just take a second or two to think about that. Now, where else can we use this? Because my curiosity started to open up. And I thought, well, when we're planning a project maybe, or beginning to think of a goal, or embark on a goal, it may not be a goal, but maybe doing something that someone else has asked us to do. What's our emotional bias then? How are we thinking about that? Are we thinking it in a positive? Are we thinking it in a negative, a neutral way? Do we think it's stupid? Do we think it's irrelevant? Do we think it's so exciting? And each one of those, you might say things like, well, all those negative ones, Paul, they're not going to work. To be honest, they don't, do they? But also, taking on the positives, sometimes you're going the other way in that bias. Oh, this is exciting. And you get so excited that you're not even doing that work in a way that's really productive, especially when it's, say you're working on a goal or a project and you're on the start out. Yes, you want some excitement as in the form of motivation, but you don't want to be overwhelmed with excitement because you're going to miss out some critical thinking points, the pain points, because you'll just brush over them. Oh, no, that'll be fine, because we're just going to do this. This is so exciting. No, you need to look at those things. So maybe you might want to think of, well, when I'm thinking about this goal, this project in mind, how do I feel about it now? And you maybe have some doubt, some anger, some disbelief, some fear, some excitement. I don't know. But then you ask that same question. I wonder what would be better. What would be the most appropriate way to feel? And we've talked about this before, but this came to me through having this cognitive bias, because we might have experiences of this project not really working. The goal never really, you hadn't done it before. So you might think, well, other people can't do it, so why should I? That negative belief, limiting belief, is going to affect your bias, and it's going to affect your emotions. And your emotions is going to affect the little pictures you make in your mind, that internal representation. It's going to, obviously that's the state, and effectively it's going to result in a behavior that's probably not going to be the most productive. So just being able to think, what would be the most appropriate way of being and feeling before I start this that would enable me to get the most out of it? Now, if you want to change your state, and I think that's a great thing, because what you're going to do is maybe think, well, okay, at the moment I'm a little bit doubtful, and doubtful is sort of good, but is probably too negative. Maybe I want a state of excitement with a touch of neutral openness. So times I've been motivated maybe and successful because I noticed things. I was aware. Awareness is a great one. Well, if you want to change your state, guess where you can learn how to do that? Because we've talked about this on the 5-Minute Quickies. And there's even 2 hypnosis tracks, Paul, get it right. Hypnosis tracks. Where do you get them from? Shall I repeat it now? No. I'll tell you about it right now.
So, the 90 seconds of hypnosis tracks. Why have I put hypnosis tracks on a separate website? Well, it's so simple really. I wanted you to have them all in one place, so you can look through them all. You can find the particular one you want. I've even made them downloadable, so you can put them on any of your playing devices that you prefer. You don't need Wi-Fi, you don't need the iTunes or whatever. You can put them anywhere you like. You can even burn them onto disk if you want. Where do you get them? Well, there you go. I told you, it's paulcloughonline.com/podcast. If you're worried about your email address, please don't be, because they stay totally safe with me. I only use them to send you out that email and give you access. Simple as that. I send you a link, a special link, so you and only you can access those hypnosis tracks, because I want them just for you. And the other thing about this is you've taken responsibility. I don't want to make these open to everyone, just random. You have taken responsibility to listen and be part of this community of personal development. And I want to help you. I want to help you personally to get your dreams, your goals. And therefore, I'm giving you these tools, these protocols, these paradigms, whatever you want to call them, but in deep hypnosis. So just enjoy. Have more fun than you can stand with hypnosis.
Welcome back. Now, changing your state. When you change your state, it will be awesome. Now, the hypnosis tracks I'm referring to is 86.1 and 94, and there's 0.1 and 2. And that one is like changing from fear, but the other one is just changing your state. And obviously, if you listen to FMQ 86 and 94, you'll get that as well. But I'm sure you have listened to it, haven't you? I know there's loads of them, so you might have to go back. But certainly, when you decide on the state that you want, those hypnosis tracks will help you do that instantaneously. And that means you're going to change your filters. And that means your bias is going to be more balanced, if you can have a balanced bias. If you're biased towards balance, I guess that's right. And that way, what you perceive is going to be different. And therefore, what you project and you think and you imagine will be different. I guess it's going to be a lot more positive. And it'll end up, I think, that when you work on your goals, work on yourself, work on just events and think about events that you're planning to do, then you are going to create a better outcome, a better result. Because just think about it. Say you were going to a meeting. You got a meeting at work with a few people, and you know that subject, and you have you've decided already. You've decided the subject is just not going to work, or the proposal is just not going to work. You're already set your bias, because it doesn't matter what other people say. You're just going to ignore it. Well, maybe that's not the right way to go ahead. So again, we're checking what's that emotion behind that, because it could be fear. It could be just doubt. It could be anger against maybe the person proposing. And all of those are not going to get the result that you want. So again, it's as you think of that event to come along, you say, I wonder what would be the most appropriate way to feel, believe, and behave. What state would I have that would give me, the best result from this meeting? So I can either put my point of view in the most appropriate way, and also being able to listen to other people in the most appropriate way and come out with the best outcome. So you can see, we have this bias in everything. So all I'm saying here, I guess, is everything we tend to do, we're going to have a bias. Maybe it's just time that we check, just for a moment. We stop, we think. And if it's a project or a goal or an event in the future, we've got time to think about it, time to imagine it out, time to as we imagine it out, maybe to notice, well, I'll try this state in that imagination. No, that didn't quite work. Let me try another state. I got it. Listen to the hypnosis track. Learn how to set your state. And then when you go to that project or you're at that meeting or whatever you're doing, you fire off that anchor. Boom. You're in the most appropriate state, and the results will be what you want. Maybe you'll get to the right result, put it that way, and you'll get the most out of it. And the other thing is, you will grow because you're learning. You're taking in all the information in a dissociated, curious, neutral with openness and all that stuff, but you'll be taking it in and making the right decisions. And because of that, you'll be growing, and your perceptions will be so much richer. And therefore what you project will be so much richer. And therefore your behaviors will be that much richer. And the results will be so much richer. And people will get it too. They're going to see you grow. And they're going to look up to you, because you are then going to be an example of someone who is fair. An example of someone who can communicate and can listen. Because sometimes it's just that act of listening without those bloody filters. So if you can know what your filters are and you can just put them on hold, get the right state, and just listen, you're going to learn so much. And then you're going to start to be someone who you were meant to be. Rich in every way. That's what I think anyway. What do you think? Have I talked a load of old BS? Maybe. I don't know. To me, I haven't. But then, that's my bias, I guess. Have a think, because I really want to affect your way of constructing your reality and to make it as rich as possible. I want to support your dreams. I want to make sure that when you think of your dreams, you're going to go for them, because you know you're going to get encouragement here from old Cluffy. I'm going to give you the tools, give you the feedback. If you give me the feedback, I want to know that, if there was, we call failures. No, we're going to get the feedback from those failures, because they're not failures. They're just results you got. And you'll understand it more when you have, when you've taken away this bias. I'm going to guess it's like changing if you were wearing glasses and they've got these funny colours on, and then you just change it slightly. Changing your bias, you begin to see what's really there. That's the way I see it. And when you do that, your fears disappear. And you can make good decisions. You can take massive, intuitive action. And then it doesn't matter what other people say, because you know. And if they do say it, you'll listen to them. Whatever they say, you'll just listen and make a real decision. You're not going to take notice of just their, you may even notice just their bias. And sometimes their bias is because they don't want to see you get ahead. The old tall poppy syndrome. You're leaving them behind. But that's okay. You can ask them to come along. You can always leave the door open. But if they're not in that same state, that same progress in their development, their personal development, then that's fine. They will catch you up sometime. But you can show them by example. And when you do that, anything that they thought about you is going to be, knocked out of the park, because they're going to see you as that shining example, being the change you want to see in yourself, but also affecting with that change what you'll see in other people, the people around you. You begin to attract, I guess, those like-minded, those liked biased people, because they'll be more balanced, and you're going to see so much progress in your life. Anyway, that's what old Cluffy believes. Do you believe that? Maybe just stop, pause, and have a think. May even have to rewind this and have a listen. But anyway, if you've enjoyed this, and I'll say, as usual, send me some feedback. Email me at feedback@personaldevelopmentunplugged.com. Simple as that. The email doesn't go into any list or anything like that. Just assure you that it comes to me personally, and I will reply to you. And if we put it on one of the episodes, it will be anonymous, but it will be the theme of your question, the theme of your feedback, so we can share it with others, because we go to that integrated field of learning by sharing and sharing. And sharing means things like sharing this podcast, sharing what you've learned from this podcast, so other people get it too. So if you would just, stop as soon as this episode finishes, maybe just share it with 2 people. And then the next day, another 2. And if you do that, that would be awesome. And lastly, but not leastly, why not subscribe if you haven't? I know a lot of you have. I see some of the numbers. And if you subscribe, these episodes will come onto your device from your platform of choice on a Wednesday and a Saturday. 2 a week, every week. And if you really do enjoy them, it would be lovely, and it would be a great honour, and I'd be really grateful to you if you could just put on one of those little starred reviews. Certainly in iTunes, a star review would be seen by more people. And that's what I'm doing it for, to share and share. Have more fun than you can stand, enjoy every heartbeat, and I wonder if your unconscious mind will surprise your conscious mind. Will make them feel happy for no reason. And then the conscious mind can go, whoa, that's funny, that's strange. Yeah, happy for no reason. Until next time, by the way, this is old Cluffy signing out, and I'll speak to you real soon. Bye-bye now.
Warning, you are now leaving the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. It's time to fly on your own. Be brave, my friend.
Personal Development Unplugged.